not our presentation.
Hi everybody, this is Raul Smith. Welcome to another episode of The Closing Tag. It's episode 7, and the name of this episode is Enjoying the Scenic Vue. Vue being spelled V-U-E. You'll see why in a little bit. Diving right into Vue Js, diving into some road tips since Memorial Day is coming up, and basically people are going to be driving like crazy and hoarding gas like crazy. By the way, people that are hoarding gas in plastic bags, sorry, not sorry, you're an idiot. So we dive also into a really good topic. I think it's probably the best discussion topic we've had in this entire podcast. And yeah, we've also got a major announcement coming up towards the end of the episode. I hope you stick around for that. It's going to involve the podcast. It's going to involve the Galactic Blue Twitch channel, and I hope that you will take as great pleasure in listening to this major announcement as I will in giving it. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway, aside from that, I will remind everybody that this podcast is free on all the platforms: Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Facebook, YouTube. And it's being provided unofficially by Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services, as well as the Telltale Heart, based on the fable from Edgar Allan Poe, and just killing all the Indian short film award ceremonies right now. So visit telltalemovie.com for more information on that. And with that, I now present episode 7, Enjoy the Scenic Vue. Bye. Welcome road trippers and jet setters. Welcome reactors and viewers alike. Welcome to another edition of The Closing Tag. Hi, I'm Raul Smith. I'm the president, CEO, co-founder, and lead developer for Galactic Blue, and I want to thank everyone for watching and listening to the podcast. We are on most of the major platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and more, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube. Friendly reminder that each and every video episode of the podcast is available on our dedicated Facebook page as well as on YouTube. Links are in the description. As always, we have two very awesome unofficial sponsors of the podcast. The first one, of course, being Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services. Second being the Telltale Heart, based on the famous Edgar Allan Poe short story, and from the creative and brilliant mind of McLean Lundquist, comes the most frightening deep dive into the sea of madness, already racking up multiple awards in the indie and short film circuits. Visit telltalemovie.com for more information on where you can find this film. So I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I seem to think that we've got a pretty awesome episode lined up this week. After a couple episodes away from doing any technical training, we are diving right back into a piece of tech that I've actually had to learn over the last month as part of a new tech stack for work. But first, as we usually do with these episodes, we're going to go right into our discussion of the week. So originally I had a pretty decent conversation lined up about acquiring skills and doing things that you only thought were impossible. But the other day I was talking to a client for work, and I had a better question posed by him, actually. I want to pose it with all of you listening to this right now. Well, as always, you are more than welcome to drop by our Discord or email me. Links will all be in the description. So after discussing progress on the website and how things are going, he asked me a question that I don't think I've thought of in a very long time. The question is the same one I'm going to ask everyone listening to this right now. It's a simple question, but it's also very, I think, important question to keep in mind and keep asking yourself repeatedly. What are your dreams? Like, what do you want to accomplish in this life? For me, it took me a minute, honestly, to think about that. I had to think very long and hard about it. And honestly, there isn't a lot that I desire out of life. I'm 42 years old. Most of my best days, most of my fun days, as they call it, are behind me. I don't really fancy for flashy cars or ritzy private jets or the 18-bedroom mansions anymore. I used to. It used to appeal to me, but it doesn't anymore. The pragmatist in me now sees the flashy car and sees an automatic speeding ticket. Or worse, it sees the private jet and asks, where are you going that requires a private jet when flying coach will suffice? It sees the mansion and asks, how the hell you clean that all by yourself, and why do you need 18 rooms? I told him I don't really want anything extravagant in life. I want to be able to do the things that I love to do without fear of being told, no, you can't do this because you don't have enough money or you have too much debt or this and that. I want to be able to travel where I want, whether it's Japan or Scotland or Italy, hell, even China. And I have time to do it. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to just say, okay, I'm going on a week's vacation here and go, Or even if it's just to, grab a chili dog from Chicago or a New York style pizza or see what all the hype is about a Philly cheesesteak. Get some amazing halibut from Seattle. This is what I want to do. You'll notice a lot of my travel desires in life are food related. If I have my daughter or somebody that can share that experience with me, even better. I want to be able to look at a recipe and say, let's try cooking that tonight. Or when we have enough of the ingredients to pull it off. If we don't have enough, you just run to the store and grab it. I want to be able to work a limited schedule without worrying about being up till 2 a.m, either training or working to make a better life for myself. Wow. I want to be able to look at my bank account for once with pride rather than despair. But mostly, I want a quiet, peaceful life. One of the things that I really enjoyed about living in rural Utah was that I was quiet. I could sit out on the front porch and not have to worry about police sirens or, anything like that. So if I had the money to outright buy a cabin in the woods, either here in Utah or in Oregon or even in South Carolina where my sister lives, that would be more than ideal. All bills paid, no worrying about rent payments or having to pay on anything. Just be able to sit on the porch, listen to the birds, sip on coffee or beer, depending on what time of the day it is and what I got going on. Just take it all in. Everything else at that point would be gravy. See, here's the thing people need to understand as they're listening to me talk on this particular podcast. I don't do this podcast or the Game Stream Twitch channel or any of these other endeavors because I need the extra money. I've got the business, the Galactic Blue business, and I've got the full-time job. That handles my finances. I do this right here because it's something I love. I do it because I love doing this. I have loved being that radio guy since I was a kid, messing around with the grade school newspaper with my best friend at the time, reporting on the things that matters to us as kids. Who cares about all that boring stuff? Just get to the meat and potatoes of the matter here. I remember another friend of mine and I hanging out in my basement, acting as radio DJs, talking about the various topics of the day. I remember writing articles in sports sections of various websites, and my mom would read them. And in some ways, I think it brought her joy knowing I was doing something I loved to do and wanted to express interest in those things. So in a lot of ways, all of my experiences have led me to living my dream right now. And that is being a web developer, being a podcaster, and playing video games on Twitch for people to see. I don't have the cabin in the woods right now. I live in an apartment at the moment. I don't have the financial security or the flexibility that I crave, but I'm working the dream job, which is being a web developer, being a software engineer. I get to do what I love, both as a business and as a hobby. I get to have my second hobby on full display on YouTube and Twitch, the Game Stream channel. And I get to do this. Granted, everybody and their sister right now has a podcast these days. Some people have too. But I still get to do this. I still have people listening. It doesn't matter to me if I only have 3 people listening or 300. It doesn't matter, where they are. If they're in Utah, if they're in upstate New York, if they're in Russia, or if they're in France. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate every single person that's listening to this. And for that, to each and every person, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching me on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for downloading the podcast and just setting it aside. It warms my heart to be able to do this and to have that validation of people actually listening. So again, thank you. So speaking of dreams, I'm sure many people, listening to this, dream to one day be a big movie star. No better way to start that journey than to appear in a red-hot indie or short film. And I have just the one that you should check out whether you're serious about getting into acting or just want to watch something pretty awesome. Based on the fabled short story from Edgar Allan Poe and from the creative and brilliant mind of McLean Lundquist comes the most frightening deep dive into the sea of madness. The Telltale Heart has already won multiple awards, including Best Sound Editing and Best Actor in Sonny Grimsley. That kid's going places for sure. At the Indie Shorts Film Festival, as well as the coveted Diamond Award for Best Short Film at the Minefield Film Festival in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Most recently, the Telltale Heart was even nominated for Best Makeup at the Film Quest Film Festival. Revisit Edgar Allan Poe's short story as this film brings more than just a classic horror story to a new audience, but also discovers a creative way to explore the groundbreaking psychological thriller. The narrative is enhanced through an unprecedented use of sounds and light, and the characters blend a modern sensibility with anachronistic charm as seen through an unsettling array of time and space. while a shifting setting disorients the unwitting audience. What is seen and what is heard leads the perplexed audience to ask, what is insanity and what truly constitutes reality? TelltaleMovie.com for more information on this brilliantly insane thriller. The closing tag is honored to have them as an unofficial sponsor of the podcast. So just in case you haven't been paying much attention to your calendar lately, because let's face it, time is all kinds of wonky these days, and to some, time literally has no meaning anymore. Memorial Day is coming up. For many American families, that typically means the start of vacation season. Travel and lodging are expecting a major boom after last year's travel season was killed by COVID. And there's a lot of people out there that may or may not have forgotten or even know how to travel efficiently and accordingly. Well, luckily for you, the closing tag is also now a travel advisory podcast on top of tech, sports, politics, and entertainment. I come bearing good tidings and sound tips for the open road. Seeing that I've been on a few road trips, both as a single man and as a family man, I can definitely give some pointers on what you should do. Ready? First and foremost, get plenty of rest, especially the day before the trip is scheduled to start. If you're going spontaneously, get some rest the night before. That way you're not chugging monsters and rock stars the entire way there. After all, what goes in must come out, and that also takes time off of your schedule. Next, plan for side trips and rest stops. What I usually like to do is plan for a 6-hour day on the road. See, people can think they have 10 to 12 hours, but really you should always plan for just 6. This will give you some time to see the sights, take longer bathroom breaks if needed, stretch your legs, maybe get lost every once in a while, nudge, stuff like that. Weigh all of your cost options accordingly. According to experts, the price of gas is scheduled to go way up this summer. This was even before all the craziness within the East Coast started. Some areas are expected to hit a dreaded $4 a gallon. Also, again, people are acting very insane and hoarding gas. So call ahead and make sure you're able to even get gas. It's also a good idea if you're taking your own vehicle to do what's called a road trip wellness check. Basically, it's an oil change, but they also top your fluids, check your tires and brakes, make sure everything isn't going to completely fall apart on the way there. Most places like Midas and Pep Boys will do one of these for about the same price of an oil change. However, taking all of these things into consideration, if you feel it would be cheaper to just rent a hybrid or even an electric car, do that. But make sure you get your reservations in early, because experts also suggest a shortage on rental cars may be on the horizon. Plan for at least one full meal and about $30 in snacks and drinks a day. Really good thing about most places like Holiday Inn and Comfort Inn is that they offer what's called a free continental breakfast every morning for their guests. If you're staying at one of these places, definitely take advantage of that. It's a lifesaver. Lastly, I know it's a minor thing and something most people don't really think through. Make sure you have music and podcast playlists ready to go by the time you head out. Some states will carry certain radio stations, some won't. It's just how it is. This will save so much time and effort having to do this while on the road. If you're traveling as a family, make sure that you have appropriate music that everybody can listen to. I do hope these tips will help you on your travels as you traverse through the country, hopefully safely, throughout the summer. Hi everybody, Raul Smith here with a major programming update alert. We are in the process of putting together not only a website for the closing tag podcast to help direct those that want to go back and listen to the archived videos that are probably no longer on the RSS feeds on the various providers, but also looking to build a site that could potentially host a Patreon page. However, I am also sorely aware that the Galactic Blue channels for both Twitch and YouTube are lacking in content as of late. So with that being said, over the course of the next 6 weeks, Galactic Blue is partnering with the closing tag to present the step-by-step build of the closing tag website. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and now it's some time to set aside to get it taken care of. I'm finally ready to pull the trigger. Hit us up on the Facebook page for Galactic Blue or on Twitter at Galactic Blue 1 for updates on when this will take place. Schedule is set to be released around Memorial Day weekend, so keep an eye out for that. Again, facebook.com/galacticblueus or twitter.com @galacticblue1 for more information on this amazing journey, and I hope that you will all join with us. So very recently I had to switch jobs to a new higher paying job, obviously. One of the challenges that I ran into almost right away, even during the interview process, is I knew from the start that I would have to learn a completely new tech stack. And I'll get to the PHP side of it in another episode. But for today, I wanted to just focus solely on the front end stack that I am running into at work. As you can see, I am on the Vue Js website. That gives you a good indication that the front end tech that I am working with right now on a daily basis is Vue Js. So let's go ahead and take a look around in the website real quick before we get to some actual code examples. So right here you'll see that is the progressive JavaScript framework. According to the website, and I tend to agree with a little bit of it at least, the tech is very approachable. If you know how to code in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you pretty much are going to catch on to Vue almost right away. Versatile, it's very versatile. It is an incrementally adoptable ecosystem that scales between a library and a full-featured framework. And it is performant. It runs on a very limited amount of resources, so that's going to cause your website to load faster as opposed to taking its time in the background. A lot of these Patreon sponsors for Vue Js are actually pretty noticeable. I mean, you've got Nuxt.js, which is another JavaScript framework. You've got Laravel, which is the PHP stack that I'm working with. Again, we'll get into Laravel at another time. Vue Mastery, HTML Burger, JS World Conference, which is like the big JavaScript proprietor in the world, and a bunch of other ones, FlatLogic, DevExpress, Cosmos. These are all ones that I'm familiar with at least. And if you're into web development, you should get into some of this as well, in my opinion. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive directly into the tech itself. So as you can see, I have my VS Code, my Visual Studio Code, already locked and loaded, ready to go. We're going to start into some class bindings first. I promise I'm not going to be one of those boring plural site or whatever instructors. I'm going to just kind of breeze right through this. So Let's go ahead and increase the font size on my screen here to just kind of make sure that you can actually see what I'm doing if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, or not even Twitch, Facebook. So as you can see, it's a basic, it looks a lot like an HTML file because it is. All Vue Js is doing is it is inserting JavaScript into your HTML. So you can see here, for instance, this little thing right here, :class. So you got your colon and then you've got the word class. And then in quotations, there's a curly bracket with some information. Basically what this is Vue Js. So it's calling for a hovered property, I guess it's called, and based on that hovered property, it's either going to come back with a background of primary or background of info. If it's not hovered, it's going to come back as background info. If it is hovered, it's going to come back as background primary. Now you can see here there's another little doohickey here with an @ sign with the word mouse over. Basically, that is Vue Js saying, okay, if the mouse is hovering over this particular element, then make hover true. On mouse out, if the mouse leaves the element, then make hovered false. And then you've got this script tags right here. Script source JS Vue.js. Make sure you have Vue.js right here in your JavaScript folder. You can see this is a pretty extensive little file here. It's got at least 2,000 pages, or 2,000. Oh, not even 2,000. It's like almost 20,000. Little under 12,000. Yep, that's a pretty extensive JavaScript file. Some of it is comments, but we'll get into that later. And then it's got another script tag. It'll say new view. EL is basically what is the element that you are trying to put this in. And then here's the app ID, which you could see is right here. And as long as this matches what's here, you should be fine. It doesn't matter if it's called app or if it's called ha 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 ha, or if it's called your mama or something along those lines. As long as the ID here matches the LID here, you're fine. And then you can see data, and you've got the hovered property right here, and it's already registered as false. So what's going to happen if I run this? So let's find out, shall we? It doesn't even need to be that. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and open with a live server. So you can see you've got an element in the middle that says mouse over here. When I mouse over, the background changes, and that is because of that mouse over property with the class binding of whether it's hovered or not. That depends on which one you're going to see. Background primary, background info. There's your mouse out. Mouse over switches to background primary. Mouse out switches to background info. Pretty cool, right? So the next thing I want to show you real quick, don't have a whole lot of time to go into too much depth, is I want to show you a little bit of conditional rendering. So basically what I want to show you is something like this right here. So, and you see, once again, we've got the app right here, ID. Now this is an interesting one right here, VF. So V hyphen is almost a dead sure indicator that it is Vue Js. So if you got this V hyphen in front of something, that usually means it's Vue Js. So V hyphen if records length is less than 1. Have an alert warning saying you have no records. Now this element right here, anything that's attached to this VF will only show if the condition is met in that VF. Then we have this element right here that has a V else if. So basically this is your basic if else statement. So if this, then show this. Else, if records length is exactly equal to 1, show an alert primary saying you only have 1 record. Every other instance, show a success saying you have more than 1 record. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you exactly how this is going to work. So right now, as it stands, give me 1 second while I close this out real quick. So we're going to go ahead and open this with a live server. And you are going to see that right now we have no records. Fair enough, right? Okay. So on this next one, we're going to go ahead and add a record. So name owl. Hold on. Name equals owl. And state equals Utah. So that is a record, right? Okay. Now, notice I have more than 1 record. So here's what's going to happen. If I save this right now, it is going to come back saying that I have more than 1 record. But if I took out this state Utah, what's going to happen? Let's find out, shall we? You only have 1 record. Pretty interesting stuff, I do say so myself. So the last thing I want to do is I want to do what's called an event handling. So this is going to be a little bit more interesting. So this is basically going to be your for loop. So v4, and then you've got this right here in favorite frameworks. Now, as long as this matches what's in the data right here, this can be whatever you want. But as long as you name something here, it needs to be named the same thing here, here, and here. So for right now, it's called framework in favorite frameworks. So it has to be framework dot, upvote framework votes, etc., etc. Class is basically just your basic CSS class. Now you'll notice this right here. There's curly brackets and then curly brackets inside of curly brackets. It's basically trying to grab whatever info is in the data and put it in as basic HTML. So for right now, it's calling for the name of the framework. So as you can see, the name of the first one is going to be Angular. The name of the second one is going to be React.js. The third one is going to be Vue Js. So it's going to show in that for loop a list of the first one's going to be Angular, the second one's going to be React.js, the third one's going to be Vue Js. Then it's going to have this button on each one with an @click property of upvote framework. As you can see right down here, you have methods. Upvote framework is basically your JavaScript function, and it's going to say, okay, for this particular framework, you're going to up the vote by 1. So if you click the button on, say, React, it's going to make that vote from 0 to 1. Or if you vote Vue.js, it's going to go from 0 to 1. Now, in this span right here, it's going to actually show how many votes each one has. And then it's going to update that vote based on that upvote click. So let's go ahead and show an example of how this is going to work. So as you can see, you've got your Angular, you've got your React.js, and you got your Vue.js. And each upvote currently has a 0 by it, but watch what's going to happen if I vote Vue.js a few times. Now you got a number 7. You got React, which is about a 3. Angular is a 1. This is not how I really view each one. I actually like React more, but that's another story for another podcast. And that's pretty much it. That's essentially the meat and potatoes of the matter. So I would strongly recommend everyone listening to this right now to go to vuejs.org, take a deep dive into the research material, click on Get Started, and just dive right in. This is going to actually make your life a lot easier, and you're going to find Freudian slip. You're going to see that Vue.js is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be very interesting to just dive right in and take a look around. So that's all the time we have for this episode. I want to thank each and every person that is watching the archive videos on YouTube, downloading the pod, or even checking us out at our new Facebook page. Links are all in the description. We are apparently reaching people as close to the source of this broadcast as Salt Lake City and as far as Moscow. So I want to thank each and every one of you so much for downloading and listening to the pod, or even checking us out on YouTube. Reminder that this podcast is unofficially sponsored by Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services, as well as the Telltale Heart, the indie short horror film that's just sweeping all the film festivals. Visit telltalemovie.com for more information on where you may be able to find it in your area. If you would like to help sponsor the podcast, we don't have a Patreon, but I'm always open to suggestions. Hit me up at raul@galacticblue.net. We're on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and many other podcast providers. Our video of each podcast can be found on our dedicated YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page. Links for all of these are in the description. We are also working on building a website for the podcast, as well as a possible Patreon page. Details are coming soon, I promise. Thank you again so much for listening and for watching, and remember to always include your closing tags.
On that, our presentation.